Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Franchise Hour. Today is Thursday, November the 11th, and we have a very interesting topic again, the next franchise frontier. And what we discussed today is about the International Workspace Group, IWG. For over the last 30 years, IWG created and led the flexible workspace market with 20,000 locations globally. And they operate under the following brands: Regus, Spaces, HQ, Signature by Regus, PacePoint, Open Office, Peace, Doho, Stop and Work by Regus, Clubhouse, to the office. Now, Regus, as you know them for sure, is the leading global workspace provider with offices practically and co-working and meeting spaces in practically every city in the world. They help all kind of businesses work closer, faster, happier, better, and in a more agile way. And they offer, of course, also franchising. And for that purpose, we have today with us Miss Rowena Natividad. She is the head of partnership growth and network development of the International Workplace Group, IWG. Welcome, Ms. Rowena, and happy to see you again. You're for the second time our guest today, and I enjoyed the last time when you were with us, and we'll be looking forward to hearing your presentation today. So welcome again, and we ask you to do your presentation about IWG.
Thanks, Rudolph. Always a pleasure to be in the franchise hour with you and your team. All right, so as Rudolph has mentioned, I will be presenting about our company. So let me provide you a brief of introduction about our company. So we are called International Workplace Group, or simply IWG. We have been in the market or operating globally for over 30 years. Now, here in the Philippines, we have been in operations for over 20 years, 22 years to be exact. We actually pioneered, as mentioned by Rudolph during his introduction, the flexible workspace industry in 1989, but we don't have yet 20,000 locations. Actually, that's the target, more than 20,000 locations. At the moment, we only have 3,500 locations. But to put in more context to that, our nearest competitor is actually, I think, just about one fourth of that size. So we're actually the biggest in terms of flexible workspaces globally. Now, most of you know us as Regus, but we also have other brands such as Spaces, where I'm currently seated at the moment. We also have the HQ down south in Davao, and we also have the Signature by Regus, so one of our flagship brand for the iconic buildings. We're present in 120 countries. At the moment, we have over 7 million users. And we're the only and the first business flexible workspace operator to offer the flexible workspace by way of partnership or franchise. So, what is a flexible workspace? It actually allows you to work whenever or wherever. So, flexibility is the umbrella term used to describe any role that breaks the traditional norm of 9 to 5 or 5 day work week structure. So, we call that flexible workspace. All right, so these are some of the big or enterprise customers that are seated in our office in any of our locations globally. So most familiar names would be Nokia, HSBC, Citi, Ernst& Young, Standard Chartered, Starbucks, of course, BMW. So what I'm trying to say in this chart is that we have a diversified industry or customer mix that are using our offices globally. All right, so co-working spaces grew almost 1,000% in a decade. So this graph shows the increase in number of co-working spaces in the last 15 years. Flexible working is actually evolving rapidly even before COVID 19. As you know, people seek out work life balance. And this has been accelerated by the pandemic as people and companies adapt to the hybrid work pattern. So, that hybrid work model, I will discuss that extensively in my next slides. All right, so as we all know, COVID 19 forced the world into a global remote working experiment, which highlighted some of the challenges as well as benefits. So, if you take a look at one of the article here, excerpt, by the upper right side of this presentation, it says here, I love you, Dublin, but you're overpriced and gridlock. So that person actually lives in Ireland, of course, and they were given the opportunity or option to choose a location where they want to live and work. And of course, he chose an area in the provinces rather than living and working in Dublin because, for practicality reasons, it's more economical for him to be staying outside of the city and more comfortable as well. All right, so we all know that we have been placed in that huge work from home experiment. And it highlighted some of the challenges as well as benefits. And let me just summarize for you some of the challenges that we've faced while working from home. I know most of you can totally relate to this. So, issues with technology, with internet. I know it's different country per country, but Philippines is very much challenged. So, you have your family members, you have your children, your spouse trying to compete with you in terms of internet bandwidth. So, that posed some challenges in getting good internet bandwidth. And there's also that distractions from family members because your kids, especially if they're small, they could not yet distinguish of you working at home and doing the household chores at home. So really very destructive for some of the workers from home. And then there's also that cybersecurity concerns, especially for banks and financial institutions. They're very much particular about data privacy and data security. And for those working from home, you don't have that internet infrastructure that protects the data. That's actually a challenge. So for IWG, we have huge infrastructures that are protected against any cyber issues or cyber attacks. And then the last but not the least is 23% of the remote workers say they miss their colleagues and the face to face time in the office. So, to sum it up, they tend to be lonely and feel isolated, right? Because, interaction is very much human nature. We all want to be socially interactive because I believe that social interaction builds resilience, and build culture, and that culture is strengthened by that social interaction between company members that actually builds company resilience. So for me, it still is important to have that interaction. Face to face with your coworkers. All right. So without challenges of working from home, they could not. Most of the companies could not go back to the traditional office because of the challenges presented for traditional office. Physical distancing restrictions and the threat for further outbreaks present new and complex workspace challenges for businesses and even for employees. For government regulations, they're actually forcing offices to adopt, which could be very costly because for some countries, they're actually mandating some density requirements on offices. So what does that mean? So you need to have more spaces compared to what used to be your space in the past, and that can be very costly because you have to pay for that space even if you're not using that. just to provide that physical distancing. And then regional and rotating lockdowns can also present unpredictable challenge for usual operations because there may be some drawbacks when it comes to lockdown. So not all employees may be able to get back to the office in time to attend to an important or critical matter. And then another is professional cleaning. So of course, you have to ensure that shared spaces are regularly cleaned to a high degree or high standard just to prevent any, COVID-19 spread. And that can be very costly. And then there are also additional safety measures required by the Department of Health just to keep ensure that all staff are kept safe. And then there's wasted office space. I discussed that earlier because you have to pay for a space. You're not able to actually maximize the floor efficiency because of the density requirements. So yeah, you're paying for more than what is would have been usual pre-COVID. And then there's also that decrease in collaboration. I've discussed that earlier because there with poor internet connectivity, it may be a challenge for some to be able to do that collaboration. Compare that to the usual face-to-face that we do in the past. And then there's that decreased productivity because of course when you go to the office there's that lost time in terms of commuting. In the Philippines, traffic is terrible. So you may have spent like 1 to maximum 3 to 4 hours a day just be caught up in the traffic. So that's actually equivalent to lost productivity. And of course, inflexible office solution. So with traditional office, meaning they're not able to scale up or scale down as the need arises because they're tied up to that space for a definite period of time. Comparing that to a flexible workspace solution, they actually have more flexibility. Why? Because they can actually get a smaller size office or they can actually get a bigger size office, depends on the requirement, and not being tied up to a long-term lease and not carry a long-term liability in their balance sheet. So these are the challenges on why some of the companies and some of the employees are not able to go back to the traditional office. So what is the solution? So what we're saying so far, that distributed workforce are the future. And flexible workspace will be crucial for getting people back to work in professional environments in a way that is safe and affordable. And IWG, our company, is actually uniquely placed to offer the best of both worlds. We have a wide network with over 3,500 locations, different branding that caters for different customer needs. So that means that we're actually able to participate in different market segments. So that's one of the advantages we have versus our competitor. Our competitors actually have a single brand. For IWG, we have a lot. So that provides for more options to the customers. For those who are really price sensitive, they can actually go for a lower end brand but still feel that Regus or IWG DNA. And of course, a wider options or diversified options in terms of the product. Aside from offices, we also have the virtual office. And then for those who are not able to invest yet on physical office at this time, they can actually just get membership. And with that huge network that we have, the benefit that they will get is that they will have access to all of our 26 locations in the Philippines as well as the 3,500 locations that we have globally. So that's actually a win-win for them. They get to access our network, have a prominent address, and be part of the IWG global network. All right. I also wanted to highlight some of the key benefits for hybrid workforce or flexible workspace. It actually got a competitive edge because smaller organizations competing with established global brands, for example, the banking sector. So they need a competitive edge to hire a talent. But offering flexibility, an incoming employee tells them you can actually work flexibly, not strictly 9 to 5, but depends on your, results driven. You don't need to click on the Bundy clock just to time in and time out. So that actually is an edge for them when they could not match the offer of a global company, they can actually leverage on offering this potential employees with a flexibility that is very much needed at this time. Another benefit is no more 9 to 5. So we now live in a 24 by 7 world driven by technology and globalization. So demand for customer services across countries and time zones outside of the 9 to 5 has driven emergence of alternative shift patterns, or we call that the hybrid. So offices and call centers have extended opening hours, and many companies need staff to work routinely out of the work hour. So aside from that, it also widens the talent pool because you don't have to have all of your employees in one location. With flexible workspaces, you can actually have a wider reach because you now have more coverage in terms of geographics. So you can actually have an employee working from you from Cagayan de Oro, other employee working for you from Iloilo, others in Manila. So you can actually have the best talents without having some challenges on their part in moving to NCR, which may be prove costly for them. All right. So, the bottom line of this slide is that anything that's flexible is dynamic. And as we all know, anything that's dynamic provides more solutions. And with the current happening no, with this pandemic, we definitely need to have more solutions and more options, and at the same time be able to be very cost efficient. Okay, so the hybrid working model is actually presented in the media in a binary way. So it's either work from home or work in the office. But actually, there is a growing awareness that the third option, which is working from a workspace that's close to home, is an important third dimension of the hybrid model. So, not just working from home, working in the office, but the third dimension is actually working elsewhere. And that actually serves, that actually makes sense because of the acceleration in a hybrid working model. So you're not restricted to working within those two options only. So there's a better option, which is working elsewhere. And employees are at the forefront of this workspace. So just this year, Standard Chartered, NTT, one of the biggest telecommunications company in Japan, but they're actually more than that. They also have asset management, and then we also have Nestle. They actually got 500,000 of memberships from us. So they are actually at the forefront of this workplace revolution. So what does that mean? For any holders of membership, any employee of them that holds that card can actually access our location globally. So if they have an employee that's working here in the Philippines, they can actually access our 26 location depending on where he lives. So if he wanted to work in a place that's very near his home, we have a location for him. Because in terms of network, we're by far the largest in terms of network here in the Philippines, as well as globally, not to mention. All right, so needless to say, IWG is at the forefront of this workspace revolution. We have been running successful workspaces for over 30 years with business model developed through the various economic cycles. So as you can imagine, there's been several crises over that period of 30 years, and IWG has actually survived. And I would say even thrived during this crisis. We've actually even acquired different brandings during this several crises. So our key growth strategy is driven by franchising, and it is very important for us to find the right franchise partner. So here in the Philippines, so far we have three franchise partners. So the first is we signed in 2019, and that's with Appleman Properties. They have the exclusive right to develop the Visayas cluster. At the moment, they have two centers that are operating. One in the business zone. The other one is at the IT park, business park and IT park, right? And then in 2020, we also signed a franchise deal with the Musa Land with Carilag de Mayo. So they have exclusivity to develop the Mindanao cluster. So at the moment, they have one franchise center that's operating in Davao City. And then very recently, just 2 weeks ago, we signed our third franchise deal with Velco Asia. And this time it's for the city of Manila by the Bay Area. So what's interesting for the third franchise deal that we signed is that the first flexible workspace center will actually operate as a powered by IWG. So in my introduction, I did talk about the four brands that we have, but there's that additional brand that we're now pioneering. It's actually a new concept that allows our competitors to partner with us and enables them to run their business with the help of IWG, our world class systems, our branding, our marketing, as well as them tapping into our global sales channel to drive inquiries and as well as improve occupancy performance of this center. So Velco Asia has recognized that advantage and has actually leveraged on that by signing a franchise deal with us. So we were speaking, as I'm talking now, we actually have one existing site with Velco Asia, and that's in the city of Manila. All right. So most of you by this time are asking about the partnership structure. So as in any typical franchise deal, the legal agreement is of course franchise, and the term is 10 years operating term and renewable for two periods of 5 years. So in total, that's actually 20 years. In terms of the operational controls, certainly it's with a franchisee, but IWG will be helping you beef up your sales and guide you along the way all throughout the tenure of the partnership. In terms of fit out, so as you can see in the photo, this is a sample center that we have. I think this is a Regus center. Yep. The fit out, meaning from a space that's bare, we need to bring that into an IWG standard design and create workspaces. So the fit out will have to be spent by the franchisee as part of their investment. And then, of course, there's platform fee, which is a percentage of the revenue. For some reason, I'm not able to disclose that with you during this presentation, but for those of you who are interested, please feel free to reach out to me or to Rudolph. I actually have my contact number by the end of this presentation, so you can just reach out to me or email address. And then in terms of the management fee, there's none because the franchisee will be managing the center themselves. But of course, as I did mention, the support of IWG will be tremendous. We'll be there as you set up the center, as you start to fill out the center, and as you set up the target center over our development period. And of course, the returns are market premium because we would not, our model, as I did mention earlier, has actually been developed through various economic models. So we have a very resilient business model, and I would say proven business model for that matter. All right, so industry leading platform. We will also be giving access to our franchisee to operations, proprietary systems, support on the procurement, human resource if needed, hiring and training people for the center, and then world-class IT and T telecoms. This is actually one of the leverage that we have against our competitor. We have a very strong and very competent IT&T systems or infrastructure. And then, of course, support on sales, generating leads, inquiries, assisting the franchisee or marketing, and of course, any financial or back office support. All right, and then in terms of the construction timeline, indicatively it's 12 weeks. But during this lockdown, there may be some challenges on the logistics. So maybe we can say 3.5 to 4 months in terms of constructing the center. Prior to the center, we have a number of activities that we do. So first would be the training of the staff or helping hire the staff for the franchisee. And then we also have the pre-selling activities where in which we tap all of our brokers to assist in selling the center even before the launch date of the site. And then other support as needed. So the design, the pricing, and the use of our system. We will be providing training to your staff. All right. So for the space, we're actually in the past what we've looked so far are either a small building, a large building, all of it. I mean, all of the floors in the large building, or some of the floors in a building, or maybe mid-sized building. So we're very flexible, actually. Flexible that we've also partnered with some of the hotels. As you know, at this time of pandemic, there's actually that huge challenge in the hospitality industry. They suffered due to the lodging demand drastically retracting and consequently plummeting of the bottom lines. And based on the research, this pandemic changed the way people work, travel, or stay in a hotel. So for one, we think that once hospitality industry starts to recover, the destinations and types of lodging preferred may change. Why? Because of the shifting demand dynamics. So people are, that shift creates a sense of urgency for hotel operators to redefine today's hotel experience. So that means they are reinventing or re-engineering their operations to better fit the needs for both leisure as well as the corporate travelers. Hence the birth of the term hybrid hospitality. That's actually a mix of hotel and flexible workspaces. So here in the Philippines, we actually have that model. We actually have a center in Regus, Makati, Ascot, Makati. So if any of you here who are listening to me who have that hotel and have a lot of unutilized spaces and you would want for the revenue to be to diversify your revenue stream, meaning not just relying on earnings from tourism, from hotel tenants, but also from other revenue sources such as flexible workspaces. You can actually reach out to us and we can get on that exploratory discussion to see if our model would work for you. And I also wanted to highlight that going forward, the real estate or the future of work is being envisioned to revolve around the concept of 15-minute commute. So for some of you who have heard me speak during the Real Estate Expo, I've actually talked extensively about this 15-minute commute because we think, based on studies and research, that this is actually the future, what we envision the future to be. So what does that mean? The easiest way to travel within an urban neighborhood is actually either to walk or to bike, especially here in the Philippines now, very much challenged in terms of commuting, especially during lockdowns now. Not all of us have access to private cars, and it's very challenging. It's been very challenging to use the public transportation. So the concept of 15-minute commute is actually everyone living in a city should have access to essential urban services within a 15-minute walk or bike, which brings us to the 15-minute city. So it is actually an urban planning concept. It's actually the brainchild of the French academic Carlos Moreno. So the idea of a 15-minute city is that work, shops, entertainment, education, healthcare should all be accessible within the 15 minutes of where people live, either by bike or by foot. So essentially, that means that the city is decentralized. It becomes a conglomerate of villages, each with its own car free green garage, homes, mixed use spaces, and of course, flexible workspaces. And this is not just a research because this is also happening in other parts of the world. There are even some politicians who are actually embedding this into their policy during their campaigns. So here's a quote from Carlos that I'd like to share with you. So just bottom line, the 15-minute commute will allow us to have more tranquil experience because everything can be reached within a 15-minute of commute. And I think in the Philippines, we actually have several townships already that is catering to this concept. So where we have the mixed use developments, we have the residential, we have the commercial, all within that township. So that in essence is actually the 15-minute city. So here's a sample or a city mind map that we have created to show the concept of the 15-minute commute. So as you can see, this seems to be very crowded, but in summary, this is actually a system that incorporates work, play, eating, well-being, shopping, learning, and contributing to society. And this is not just a pie in the sky. As I've mentioned earlier, changes are already happening. So with people working locally, local amenities and retail outlets will receive a boost and new jobs will be created. So the work-life balance, which is actually the catalyst of the flexible workspace, will make people more productive and healthier. And with travel reduced, carbon emissions will fall and cities will see far less congestion. And that's what we have been dreaming of. So, meanwhile, local communities will thrive as investment floods in for new infrastructure and facilities. And that is the world of the 15-minute commute. And we see this as an important element on flexible workspaces or addressing the demand for flexible workspaces. In the future, communities will cater to every need within a quarter of an hour where we live. And of course, the final piece of the jigsaw will be provided by flexible workspace. And that actually provides you all the benefits of a centralized office that is close to home. And we think that the result is, of course, a place where lives are transformed for the better and one that gives us back a sizable chunk of our most cherished commodity, and that is actually time, right? So, for those of you who are interested to explore an opportunity with us, any partnership opportunity with us, if you have buildings that are currently unutilized or spaces, if you have hotels, or whatever space, we can actually be very flexible for as long as there's demand on your area. We can explore possibility of collaboration. So next step would be identify that opportunity and then reach out to us. Let's discuss on what is the best solution. And of course, we do the franchise agreement. We start to manage our center and monetize. Right? So I always show this during my presentation. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So Winston Churchill is one of the um, president of the United Kingdom. No, he was the prime minister during the time of the World War, and under his leadership, was able to win. I mean, won the war, no, against the Nazi. And I always find strength in his quotation that says, "Never let good crisis go to waste." And I think during this crisis, very uh, good opportunity for you to look for business opportunities, during this time of crisis, that when we get to the other side, will thrive and provide you more returns, right? That's it. So I hope to have provided you good insights about flexible workspaces, the demand, the opportunities, and the different types of partnership we're amenable to do. So for any interest, please feel free to reach out to me. That's my email address, or contact Rudolph, and I'm sure he'd be glad to connect you to me. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Rowena Natividad, Head of Partnership Growth and Network Development of the International Workplace Group. And before we end our day of the franchise hour for this week, we do a little bit of announcements. And here we go. You might be interested to get a copy of my book all about franchising. If you want to have it, it's available, it's free. Just send us a message and we'll be sending it to you. Um, Aki Franchise Consultancy developed more than 800 franchise companies so far. So if you have a company and you want to expand it through franchising, please get in touch with us. We do everything you need to be a professional franchisor, from structuring the franchise to the manuals, the legal, the marketing materials, and everything else, what you need to be a professional franchisor. So get in touch with us at 8912-2946 and 8912-2973. If you listen from abroad and you have a company abroad for development, get in touch with us through franmundo.com. And in case you have a distributorship business and you want to expand it, please get in touch with us at GoFran. We are doing the same what we do for franchises on the RK. So the distributorship packages, call us at 8736-6940. And of course, all our franchisors are member of FIFA, Filipino International Franchise Association, with all the benefits of it. And please read the franchising.ph magazine. Every month comes out new. So this month is still the October issue because of the expos, because our franchise expos are running for 2 months. So we'll let the magazine also run this time for 2 months. And talking of expos, right now we have the 5th Iloilo Franchise Expo from November 5 to 15 at iloilofranchise.com. And this Saturday, we are doing a seminar at 2 p.m. on Facebook. It's free, no registration needed. Facebook.com/Visayas Franchise. So please join us 2 p.m. We have I do a seminar, and then we have 7 companies who introduce the business opportunities. And then we have the 3rd Palawan Franchise Expo Virtual Edition from November 20 to 30 at palawanfranchise.com. Again, with a free franchise and opportunity seminar on November 27 at Facebook, Palawan Franchise. And if you want to see all the other franchise hours, please visit us at our YouTube channel, RK Franchise. Next Thursday, we are welcoming Mr. George Noel Winnicke, the founder of Tokyo Tempura and president of AFI. And he will be our guest for next Thursday. So we reached here with our end of this week. I would like to thank again Ms. Rowena Natividad and all my viewers. And I see you again next Thursday at the same time. Thank you so much for being with us today.